welcome back to our yearly roundup of all the weird news that has happened in 2022. I'm back today with a few more weird tales from the year just past, but as a reminder, this won't be your usual news roundup. This is strictly the stuff that makes you go, what? As, quite frankly, the regular news is far too depressing, so instead we'll be exploring a few weird and wonderful stories that may have not made it into the regular newspaper. Now, that's not to say that these stories don't dally with the dark side, because sometimes they most definitely do. But there's also plenty of light-hearted strangeness too. But don't worry, if anything is going to be hideously awful, then I'll give you a heads up first. So with the disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into August. But before we do that, if you are new here, then hi, my name's Nikki and I make podcasts, videos and TikToks about all sorts of weird stuff. So if you're into that, which I have a sneaking suspicion that you might be, then please hit subscribe so we can hang out together again. And if you're not new here, then welcome back, old fiend. Nice to see you again. So it seems in August of this year that animals were entirely out of control, as today we have a number of tales from the animal kingdom which breach the world of weird. First off, we're headed to San Diego, California for some good old-fashioned monkey business. On the evening of Saturday the 13th of August, 911 dispatchers received a silent call. When they tried returning the call and also sending a text, they received no response. Worried whoever it was couldn't answer the phone, they sent officers to the address the call had come from. Officers from the San Luis Obispo Sheriff's Office were sent to the unusual address of the Zoo to You in Paso Robles. After searching the site, they found that no one was around, but they managed to get in contact with security. After the park was checked for any strange happenings, the number was traced back to the zoo's emergency mobile, which is kept inside a golf cart, which is used to move around the 40-acre site. When they tracked down the phone, it just so happened to be in the hands of a capuchin monkey. Root, one of the zoo's much-loved capuchins, had snatched the phone from the golf cart when she was being transported and had decided to have a good play with it. Her button mashing resulted in her dialing 911, and as such, the police were dispatched after they picked up the silent call. Root's handlers confirmed the strange sequence of events and said that capuchins have a habit of being very inquisitive when it comes to new items, and Root must have played with the phone, resulting in the accidental call to the police. Luckily, police were very understanding of the situation and even found the event funny, posting it on their social media account. Luckily, Root didn't get arrested for wasting police time, but you can be sure she won't be allowed to ride shotgun again in the golf cart anytime soon. Carrying on with our animal theme, we're now headed to New Zealand, where an unlikely character broke into a home and caused quite the stir with the family cat. One morning, Jen Ross had gone out to the gym, and when she returned about an hour later, she was incredibly confused to find she had a new pet. As she went down the hall into her living room, she was amazed to see a seal lounging on her couch. Incredibly confused, she instantly called her husband, who was at work at the University of Waikato, where he just so happens to be a marine biologist. He joked and said this is probably the only time he'll be useful in a family emergency. However, Jen had it all under control whilst her husband was at work. The seal, who was just a juvenile, took itself on a little tour of the house, and yes, I have incredibly cute photos to show you for those of you listening to the podcast, so if you have a moment, pop over to the video. After the seal was done taking his tour, Jen called him back up and a Department of Conservation ranger came to her rescue and helped shoo the animal out of her home. The ranger promptly packed the creature up and returned it back to the beach from whence it came. But how did a baby seal find its way into the family home? Well, for that, all eyes fell on the family cat, Coco. Coco is known in her household and also the neighbourhood for being quite the antagonist when it comes to local dogs, and she's very territorial. What Phil, the marine biologist, believes in his expert opinion is that Coco found the seal outside, decided to tell it to go away, and retreated through her cat flap for safety. He then believes that the seal, which was clearly looking for company, misread Coco's body language and took it as an invitation to follow her through the cat flap, becoming trapped in the Ross household. Poor Coco was clearly quite upset by the whole event and spent the next few days hiding at the neighbour's house, refusing to come home. When she was eventually coaxed back, she took to staying upstairs as, of course, their little marine mammal friend had been hanging out downstairs. Phil said it took a few days, but she's made a full recovery now. I'm sure Coco will think twice next time before she makes another swipe at an errant dog, as she definitely got more than she bargained for with this seal pup. So I'm sure you've heard before that in space, no one can hear you scream. Well, for black holes, that isn't quite the case. In August, NASA released some terrifying sounds which have emanated from a black hole. Well, kinda. The unsettling noise was first discovered back in May of 2022, but only started getting attention when it was shared on Twitter by NASA's Exoplanet Research Division in August. However, the mysterious noise goes back even further to 2003 when researchers found that disrupted gas inside the black hole created ripples which were able to make a noise. Despite people thinking that there is no noise in space because it's a vacuum, it seems that what can be heard are the farts of a black hole. NASA said, "The misconception that there is no sound in space originates because most of space is a vacuum, providing no way for sound waves to travel. The black hole, which is at the centre of the Perseus galaxy cluster, creates sounds because, according to the space agency, it has so much gas inside it that the gas creates major ripples, which is a result of it being hot. And after it being Christmas, I know exactly how it feels." Here's the sound that NASA shared. I think you'll all agree that that's one scary sounding space guff. However, if you were floating around in space, don't expect you'd actually be able to hear anything because, as it turns out, the sound is inaudible to humans. However, with some clever audio manipulation, scientists were able to amplify the noise and turn it into a sonification, which is basically the raw data from the black hole being made into a noise. So, whilst the black hole might be silent to our ears, it's just out there, screaming silently into the void. And, honestly, I can relate. Thanks for joining me for that selection of weird stories. I hope you enjoyed them, and if you did, there'll be more of them along soon, so make sure you're subscribed if you're not already to keep up with the series. If you're enjoying this little mini-series, what I make and what I do in general, then please consider becoming a Patreon supporter because that's the best way to help the show. You'll become legendary like our executive Patreon producers Amy, Christina, Jess, Karen, Kate, Kevin, Mary, Sally, Sam, Sarah, Vee and Veronica. And huge thanks to all of my other patrons too. If you just want to send a tip or a little gift from my Amazon wishlist, then I would massively appreciate that too. That all goes towards helping the show as well, and I'll leave all the links in the show notes for you. An enormous thank you for even considering doing any of those things, as it means the absolute world. And I don't want to make it all about money either. If you can just share the show around or leave a 5-star rating on your podcast provider, then that would be really helpful too. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I've been Nikki Juice, and I will see you ghouls next time for September.